Welcome to Season 2 of Chris's Picks. If you're wondering where I am right now, I'm standing in front of the Government Operations Building for the Emerald City. It represents the seat of power for one of the strongest municipalities in the country, and each year dozens of pilgrims flock to this sacred location to bask in this building's shadow. Likewise, we'll be heading to our Fantasy League's seat of power to meet with Commissioner Andrew Amade, and there may just be a special guest along the way. Buckle up, Season 2 of Chris's Picks is on the way.
I'm playing Fortnite, dude. I got my pizza rolls already. I got a new girlfriend. Shit is amazing right now.
Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, let's ride.
It's been a minute. It has been a hot minute since we've been in Chris's Picks mode. It's been a little bit since we've been in football season, but we finally made it, folks. Here we are, Season 2 of Chris's Picks for Season 2 of the Dynasty. We're excited to get going. We're going to have a little bit of a different slate today, as we're technically in week 0/week 1. No games have been played yet, so there's no games for us to recap. We will be recapping the draft, and we will be hitting you guys throughout the season with, some different bits. We're looking forward to this year and trying some different things, and hopefully you like the changes. We want more league involvement. I don't really have a plan for getting that league involvement quite yet. But it's kind of a shoot from the hip type of thing. That's what this show is all about. But let's talk about the draft. The draft, a great time was had by all. We all took a little golf trip to go draft for the first time drafting, essentially all rookies. That's who we were drafting this time around. And something interesting happened. You see, I traded all of my draft picks.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You get 4 draft picks. I traded every single one of them for Davante Adams. You heard me correctly. There's a philosophical difference in this league. Some people think draft picks mean everything. Others, basically just myself, thinks that draft picks are commodities to get players. We had a big discussion. What I did was very controversial. It's an experiment. We were looking at it as an experiment. Maybe my team will be atrocious because of it. Maybe I'll win the league. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's the fun in it. We get to watch this play out live. But as you can see from this draft board, I traded all my picks to Dylan Knight, and his team suck up on those toes, on these toes. I don't really know. Dylan's got to figure out that name. But, a pretty uneventful draft. As you can see, Logan took Breece Hall with the first pick. No surprise there. Blake followed with Drake London. Dave, in a surprising move, took Chris Olave. We're not going to break down this whole draft because that would be a little ridiculous. But just wanted you guys to get a gist for what all happened here. But there's one important thing I forgot to note. Last season, Jack drafted 7 defenses. 7 defenses. He used 7 picks on defenses.
Tell us about that.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
I hate to break the news to you, but there are no more defenses in this league. The league voted there are no more. We got rid of the defense.
Folks, I wish that I had better news for you.
biopsy came back positive for cancer. Now,
Tough luck, Peggy. With that being said, that was the wrap-up of the draft. Now we're ready to move on to the guest pickers. Here are your inaugural picks for Season 2. Folks, welcome back to another edition of Chris's Picks. This time we have not one, but two guest pickers this evening.
Hey, Chris, thanks for having me. Drew. Michael.
With the Chris Collinsworth slide. So, just to clarify, one of the things we'll be doing this season on Chris's Picks is alternating with a league member and one of our friends who is not necessarily in the Fantasy Football League, but who we think could add a lot to the show. And that first friend is Michael Brands. He is a medical school student at a local university. But more importantly, he's one of the funniest friends I know. In fact, you're the top 4 funniest friends I have. You're on the Mount Rushmore of funny.
Okay, that's high praise. Who's above me?
Well, you know.
Those guys aren't that funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's neither here nor there. I just want you to know, this is a very funny man and a great pal. And then we have Andrew Amade to my right here. Yeah, not that big of a deal. But we'll let you introduce yourself, Mike. Is there anything you want to say to the folks at home?
Thanks, Chris. No, I mean, thank you for having me. I mean, that was a fantastic introduction. I'm a little verklempt over here. But no, I'm excited to get it going. Football's here, so let's do it.
Well, just realize, that introduction comes with a lot of pressure. With great responsibility comes great power. That's what they say. Drew, our fantasy football commissioner, we thought it would be fitting to have him help kick us off the season. Usually we do a softball question. I don't really know if I'm going to continue to do that this year. But Michael, I thought it would be good. See, a lot of fans don't know, and now you're on national television, or essentially probably the closest thing. Global.
Hottest show on YouTube.
The hottest show on YouTube. This is as close as you might get. You want to explain to the folks at home?
I've been on local TV before.
A lot of people want to know. They're using the whole Swiss Army knife vernacular to describe Taysom Hill, and what a lot of people don't know is I'm sitting next to the man who came up with
great
that.
nickname. It's a great nickname. Do I tell the story?
Well, you can go into a little bit of detail.
Sure. I mean, I won't bore you, but
Psych!
2018 Saints versus Browns, week 2. I was in the Dome. I was a student at LSU at the time. Saints won a game they shouldn't have won. Zane Gonzalez of the Cleveland Browns missed 3 field goals. Called in on the way home back to Baton Rouge. Got on air with Christian Garrick and Bobby Hebert. It was actually the first game that Taysom had ever returned a kick. I called in and I said, it was unreal. Our backup quarterback returned it. No one knew Taysom at the time. I just wanted, no one knew who he was. He was our backup quarterback. I said it was unreal. Our backup quarterback returned a kick.
6 hours later.
Of his Joe Theismann used to return punts back in the day, Chris. And I said, Bobby, that guy's going to be a great asset to this team. He's a Swiss Army knife.
And that was it.
I got a question.
That's not quite the end of the story, folks. So I go online the next week because I want to listen to myself on the radio. WWL posts all their episodes of the point after.
Later that same evening.
And we know why.
Interesting.
So when I asked that question, I didn't realize we were in for a longer origin story than a DC movie.
We'll cut some of that.
We're not cutting anything. One take, you know the rules. All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. So as you know, we're going to go through the picks, and what we do is I, go first, and then we'll pass it off to you two to get your thoughts. But the first matchup I want to look at is none other than, I got to say it, the Chubby Dubbies versus Team Takeout. Folks, this one is not projected to be close. Team manager of the Chubby Dubbies, Scott, he's got a lot of weapons at his disposal. He's got Hurts, he's got Stephon Diggs, he's got Travis Kelce, along with now a healthy Cam Akers, Logan, who's the team manager of Team Takeout, or at least that's what people tell me. He's got the Masked Singer in Tom Brady, Derrick Henry, and he's going to start rookie Breece Hall. I don't love that. I think Logan is in for better days. Folks, if you're fans of Logan's team, you're in for better days, but this is not going to be the start of that. Drew, you want to give your take?
Yeah, so I'm going to go out here and say hot take. I think Logan keeps this one close.
Okay.
But I think the Chubby Dubbies have the edge. See, the thing with takeout is everybody forgets how good Logan was at the beginning of last year when Brady and Derrick Henry were putting up 70 points a game combined. So with a fully healthy Derrick Henry, Tom Brady, recently divorced supposedly, and Mike Evans, who without Chris Godwin this week in a game that's going to be a shootout against, I think they played the Cowboys.
Yes.
That's just that can be like 90 points just those three guys, which can keep Logan in the game. Logan also gains 2 new starters in the draft in Breece Hall and Dameon Pierce. Not expecting them to do a whole lot in their first game, and Logan is starting 4 running backs and a half a point per reception lead. So I do think that Hurts and Kelsey are enough for Scott to barely edge him out, but it's going to be a nail bite for Scott. He's going to be shitting himself this whole week.
Okay, so 2 picks for Scott.
Yeah, well, I've got Scott.
Scott.
And a big
Okay.
one.
Yeah, I think this is Scott's game to lose. I'm obviously new to the league. I was reviewing the rosters. I think Scott has Logan in almost every category. But there is someone who Chris mentioned, he's peeking over at my notes, who I do think could take over this game. Hurts so good. Sing it with me, boys. Come on, baby, make it hurt so good.
I don't know if that's going to come across in this. We'll see.
Jalen Hurts so good. At home? No, on the road.
On the road.
Against a very weak, what will probably end up being a bottom 4 defense in the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell's Lions. Hard knocks this year. Very weak in the secondary. I think it could be a big week 1 for Jalen Hurts.
Okay, so we've got Scott across the board. Hey, moving on. We've got the Young and the Holeless versus the Dixieland Delights. Our reigning champion, manager Daniel, he's the manager of the Young and the Holeless. He's not looking to take on a hangover season this year. He is once again projected to be the high point getter for this week. And why wouldn't he? He's got Kyler Murray. He's got Cooper Kupp. He's got Leonard Fournette. All are projected to be stars in this league. Now, manager of the Dixieland Delights, Will, he's got some dogs with him. He's got Abear, he's got Eckler, he's got Kamara. He thinks Sutton is the next coming of Jerry Rice simply because of Russell Wilson. I think he's wrong on that one, but we'll see. We'll see. I've got to go with the defending champ on this one, though. I can't pick against the champ just yet. Branch, we'll start with you this time.
Okay. Yep, good analysis, Chris. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I tend to favor running back heavy teams in fantasy football versus wide receiver heavy teams. Daniel, very strong at the wide receiver position. Will, very strong at the running back position. Alvin Kamara, I think he's going to play a full season, we think. Eckler, very strong there. So I'm going to make a pick here. I'm going to fade Sleeper.
Okay.
And I'm going to say down goes Frazier week 1,
Wow.
and I'm picking Will.
We have our first not so fast of the year, folks. Branch is going with Will. Drew?
I didn't really write too many notes about this one because how can you pick against last year's champ? Daniel, he only got stronger. And my bold take for this game is that Murray and Marquise Brown, with no Zach Ertz possibly playing, possibly no Rondell Moore, he's the only guy that's going to be in DeAndre Hopkins suspended. It's going to be the only receiver on this team. They combine for 50, take down the Dixieland Delights. The only thing that can keep William in this game is Gibson getting a few touches, which he wasn't expected to since the Brian Robertson injury.
Yeah.
The only thing that can keep William in this game.
We'll call it an injury. That's really, that word injury is doing a lot of work in this case. If we had done any show prep whatsoever, I would have absolutely gone Drew first there and then given Michael the true not so fast.
We'll cut and reverse it.
But that's the beauty of this. It's all improv. It's all just shooting from the hip. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. So we go from one Ho team to another. We're Ho hopping. Team Mad Ho versus the Obi-Wan Mahomies. Now this game is projected to be pretty close, within 5 points. I don't think that will be the case, and it's partially because I am a Trey Lance hater. I don't think that he's going to be any good this year. I think the public is hyping him up. I've got no faith in this 49ers team, and heck, Trey Lance might not even be the starter for the entire year. Jimmy Garoppolo just got signed again. He's no Pat Mahomes, okay? Now, Harry's got some guys that can hang with Dave's, position players, skill position players, that is. He's got Christian McCaffrey. He's got T. Higgins. He's got Javonte Williams. These guys can all play. But at the end of the day, I think the difference is quarterback here. Drew, what do you think?
Chris, again, terrible preparation to show because I think this is going to be the closest game of the week. It comes down to a matter of 2 points.
Wow.
I think that Harry does have his flex positions are kind of weak. Cordarrelle against the Saints defense is not going to get a whole lot, and our good old friend Clace with the hype of Pickens coming up, I don't think he's the third option, maybe even fourth option behind Freiermuth in that offense. But you look at Dave's side. Dave's starting 2 Eagles wide receivers, which I just don't really like. I mean, if you get one of them to go off, he has a chance. But the odds that both of them do well are kind of slim. Also starting Tony Pollard. You never know. They're still saying Zeke's going to get the majority of the carries, especially in the red zone. You expect Zeke to get those touchdowns. Like you said, I think it does come down to quarterback play. I think Mahomes does have a big game in that same shootout game. But I think Harry gets a Monday night miracle between Judy and Javonte Williams where he's going in down by 20, 25 points, and he comes back and wins it.
Folks, what can I say? I just don't know how to read a room, because I'm sure that Brands is not going to have a spicy take, or I could be wrong.
I'll decide this one. So, again, looking at the teams for the first time, I like Harry here, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll save you the suspense. I like Harry here. One thing that's huge in fantasy football, as we know, but particularly in dynasty fantasy football, are value picks. And on Harry's team, I see a lot of value. Trey Lance, a guy who I think could do big things this year. And Chris, that has nothing to do with the fact that he's also my dynasty quarterback. Javonte Williams, big value there. I think he's going to be great this year for the Broncos. And Jerry Jeudy. Anytime someone drafted Jerry Jeudy in the past, I would say, Jerry Jeudy, that's a panic pick. Who wants Jerry Jeudy? This year, Jerry Jeudy could be a stud. With Russell Wilson under center, who knows what could happen? I like Harry.
Well, what one man calls value, another man calls garbage. And so I think Harry's team is really the great value ibuprofen. I think Dave's rocking with Advil. We'll see what happens there. Moving on. All right, so the next game on the docket is Steven Stogies, that would be yours truly team, versus Suck Up on These Toes. After our blockbuster trade between Dylan and I, the football powers that be decided to match us up in our first fantasy football week. Now, Dill, he's pretty powerful with JT. He's got Rodgers, he's got Hunt, and he's got Terry McLaurin. This year, I'm certainly going to be a quarterback by committee. We've invested a lot in the film room. We're going to look at it week by week, what the matchups say. I think Baker's going to be my guy for most of the year, but I think it's a juicy matchup here with Carson Wentz. If Terry McLaurin is scoring touchdowns, I want Carson Wentz to be the guy throwing to him. I do have Dylan a close one. So I am picking against myself. I'm going to fade myself. I'm picking Dill. Drew, what are your thoughts?
It's funny that you called Harry the great value, the garbage can of our league. Well, because, Chris, in my opinion, that's you. I think that you think, even though you didn't pick yourself, I think that you think your team is better than what it actually is. These off-season acquisitions, departures, it really shook up the team. I think Devontae Adams, even though he's a great player, is going to be less value than what Stephon Diggs is going to provide this year, fantasy speaking.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think, even though this is Devontae Adams' revenge game,
it is.
I think that first game, new offense. Darren Waller expected to play week 1. Hunter Renfrow on the other side. You never know where those targets are going to go. Just like you said, Carson Wentz, he's not that guy, pal. And Michael Carter, they already drafted a new running back behind him. You're starting these two guys this week, especially if Godwin doesn't play. You're really hurting in the flex spot. And I think Dylan gets a few sneaky games from Juju and Ramondre Stevenson. And don't forget, first game back since Dylan had a kid, he's a guaranteed lock this week.
So, for those that are wondering, yes, I do invite Drew to come on and just crap all over my team. We have philosophical differences on the trade. Clearly, that has bled into some of his analysis. I, for the record, don't think my team is as bad as he makes it out to be. Michael, what do you think?
I'll be honest, Chris, I'm not crazy about either of these teams. Looking at Dylan's roster, maybe a little bit thin at the wide receiver position. I mean, I like Scary Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
Juju Smith-Schuster, we had an off-camera discussion. I'm not so crazy about him this year. Adam, I've got a feeling. Not sure about him either. So, that's Dylan, but Chris, when I look at your team, I see a lot of, weak spots that I think you probably looked at and said, I'll deal with that later. And here we are, week 1, and we have Michael Carter in the starting lineup. We've got Carson Wentz in the starting lineup. So I'm gonna go with Dylan here. Although I appreciate you inviting me to be a guest on your show, and you said all those nice things about me. But Dylan in I think a big win.
So, folks, for the first time ever, you're seeing the two guests that will never be invited back on Chris's picks for their analysis. Obviously, I'm just kidding, but I think that they're buying the legacy media's Kool-Aid on this, and I think I'm going to shock some people this year.
Well, I got a point.
Okay.
The legacy media, you also picked against yourself, though. So.
That's true. I guess from a certain way, I am the legacy media for this league. So that's something that I'll have to reconcile with in my nightmares. Anyways, moving on to the next game, we've got Hunter Biden's laptop versus can't guard Jameis, and what really could be considered a toilet bowl of sorts. I know that we all just took a dump right on my team, but I would venture to say that the worst team in the league is among these two, and I think it's Blake's. I think Blake is going to finish last this year. I know Drew is going to speak to this more, but, I mean, would it really be a fantasy season if we didn't look at Blake's roster and see open spots? It's just ridiculous. I'll let Drew touch on that later, though. Blake's got Lamar. He's got Mike T. He's got Drake London, who is projected 10 points against the Saints. Now, I think that's a little ridiculous. However, I did hear on the way here that I believe Paulson Adebo might be hurt, so that would put Roby as the other exterior corner. That means, Alontae's playing the slot. We'll see. I think Adebo's going to play. I don't think Drake London is going to get 10 points, although he might be their only, target out there with Ridley.
He's questionable week 1.
He is questionable. That's true. He is dealing with some, I think it's either a groin injury or a hamstring. I'm not really sure. Moving to Jack, I mean, Jack's team, I know he gets a lot of flack for his team, but I think his core 4 here, Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley, Chase Edmonds, and CeeDee Lamb, I think they're going to be well enough to win this one. So I've got Jack here. Michael, you seem like you want to comment.
Chris, I looked at these two rosters for the first time this morning, and as soon as I did that, I checked my calendar because I was afraid that I woke up in the year 2018. I'm going to read some names that are starting in this game. Mike Davis, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Ayuk, Saquon Barkley, maybe there's something there, but who knows? Jack obviously has QB1, Josh Allen, that could, go a long way this season. Blake, he's got David Montgomery, who I originally was going to make fun of David Montgomery, but I actually am a big David Montgomery believer. I like him in fantasy.
Okay.
DK Metcalf, he has his nickname. Blake, I don't know if y'all saw this. He has his nickname on Sleeper as Just Throw It Up. Should we perhaps think about adjusting that, Blake, now that Geno Smith is under center in Seattle? I don't know. I don't know who to go with here, but I'm going to pick Jack as well. Drew?
Excellent.
I am going to ride with y'all. I am riding with Hunter Biden's laptop here. Not the only thing.
Okay. Innuendos.
We'll cut that.
We'll put a PG rating on this one.
But I think that CeeDee Lamb, Dalton Schultz have a big game in this shootout game against Tampa Bay. Josh Allen, like you said, Brand's QB1 of this league. He's going to put up numbers against The Rams, you look at Blake's lineup and you just see a lot of question marks. You got hamstring boy Michael Thomas, questionable play. It sounds like he's gonna go, but how is he gonna play after not playing for a year?
Good point.
But I think the biggest X factor in this game is in the kicker position. Yes, that's right, the kicker position. Because you know why? Blake's kicker is currently not on an NFL roster, and he is in his starting lineup. Like, blow me away. This has to be one of the best strategies and most unique strategies I've ever seen.
I agree. That could pose a problem.
Blake is currently on such a hot streak of riding these players that just don't play in football games. That is just unbelievable to me.
It's crime.
And I think, Blake, I'll say it again. There's other players knocking on the door who want to be in this league. So you got some time. Maybe pick up a kicker here that can, actually kick a field goal in a game. But yeah, I think Jack takes this one.
I think it's a great point you make, Drew. I mean, when you look at a guy like Blake, here's a guy who's calling me at odd hours of the week to ask me to go eat fajitas with him. And yet he can't even be bothered to look at his starting lineup. I mean, it's a chronic problem. Blake, brother, if you don't want to be wearing a caddy suit next season, I would suggest getting it together and getting it together quickly.
Put on some music if I can get it up quick now. All right, Mr. Augustin.
Okay, folks, the last matchup of the evening is our game of the week. It's Gritty and the Jets versus Dalvin and the Chipmunks in the Peer Pressure Bowl. I think both of these managers are susceptible to peer pressure. You've got pride versus humility. You've got last year's number 2 versus last year's number 3. How can it get better for week 1? This is a primetime game. Let's start with this. I don't think Dak Prescott is going to get 19 points against Tampa Bay. Point blank, I think that's an inflated number that Sleeper's throwing out there. Chase, Cook, and Connor, and you know what? I'm even going to throw in DJ Moore. They're big point getters in this league. On the flip, Drew finally has a quarterback that he can win a championship with. You're welcome, Andrew. Stafford and Jefferson. He's also got Deebo Samuel. These guys are all primed for big seasons. Unfortunately, we're talking about inflated points. I think Drew has 3 players that are a little bit inflated. You got Zeke. Dallas doesn't have an O-line, so good luck with Zeke. Waddle. I'm not a big believer in Tua, so maybe that's why I'm not a big believer in Waddle. He's also got to compete for balls with Tyreek Hill. So, Darnell Mooney is another guy. What's the Chicago offense? Do we know? I don't think we do. I've got Dan in a close one for those 3 players being too inflated. We'll go with Mike, and we'll let Drew speak to his own team at the end here.
Sure. I won't say too much about this game. It's obviously a heavyweight bout. I agree with that much. First thing I noticed, it's a battle of Tiger receivers. We have 2 national champions. We have Justin Jefferson for Drew at home against the Packers playing in a dome. And then we've got Jamar Chase for Dan, also at home. But a little birdie told me, Chris, might be a little bit of rain in Cincinnati this weekend.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Drew here, as much as it pains me to do it. But I'm going to go with Drew in a close game, high-scoring affair. Drew?
Well, it wouldn't be Chris's picks without picking yourself. Because as Chris didn't pick himself earlier, here I am. I'm going to pick myself to win. I think, and especially because last time I picked against myself, this time I need to pick for myself. So I do think this is going to be a close game. I think there are some question marks in my team with some personnel changes, like you said, Jalen Waddle with Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel with a quarterback change. So we'll see how they get along. I just don't like, Dan having 4 starting running backs. Yeah, he's starting 4 in a half-point PPR league. I'd much rather receivers in there that can get you get you more receptions and more points that way. I do think Zeke and A.J. Dillon, they're question marks, but I think if they sneak a touchdown, they both get in the red zone carries, they sneak a touchdown, I go ahead and win this game. And I think the rest of our players, we're number 2, number 3, we were meant to be there. Repeat from the playoffs last year. I think we just get the job done. There's going to be a lot of points in this game, I think. But like I said, if Zeke and A.J. Dillon get in the end zone, I think I like my odds in this one.
Spoken like a true future fantasy champion. If his running backs who are starting sneak touchdowns, he might win. Folks, that's all we have today for Chris's picks. Any parting words from either of you?
Just happy for another year. Great time at the draft. Great time here back on Chris's picks. First recurring guest, by the way. And you know, this football season couldn't come soon enough, and you know, we're less than 24 hours away now. I'm just ready to get rolling.
Michael.
Not too much, Chris. Just thank you two gentlemen for having me on. Happy picks this season, and may the best man win.
Well, folks, that was it. We kicked it off pretty great, in my opinion. And this is probably the most well-dressed a Chris's Picks episode has ever been. So we're all excited to be back. We're excited for football. That about wraps it up. We'll see you next week.